Hey everybody. So back on Wednesday, there was a Let's Talk meeting of council where they talked about things that were happening with the budget as well as things that were happening with the school district. Um, I decided I was going to be fancy and record the whole thing and then kind of chunk it up into little things. So I didn't live stream it that night. I recorded it. I recorded with my good camera and I was like, oh, it's gonna be your typical hour long event. So I put a fresh battery in the camera, um, trundled down to the community center, and was treated to the better part of 3 hours of discussion. So I have taken and not done much editing on this because basically I'm running it from not quite tip to tail, just because I um, had some technical difficulties. This is unsurprising to many, if not most of you, but um, the audio feed that I was running to my camera didn't quite work. Fortunately, I was doing a backup recording with my um, mic. These things have a backup recorder in them, but of course, I had to then take the audio and sync it up with the video. And I was like, oh, let's get tricky. Let's take and put a break between scenes when different people came up to ask questions to sort of like allow me to chunk it up better. At one point in time I hit pause and then hit go again and it didn't go again, so there's a section of video where there's about 10 minutes of audio only. I know, just show up with my live streaming rig and live stream it because that seems to work and everybody's happy, and I don't have to sit there for 3 days trying to edit the audio to match up with the video. But you get what you get. You don't get upset. So what follows now is basically 2 hours and 20 minutes from the Let's Talk. I have not included the mayor's preamble because he did a presentation and there was a slideshow that went with it. I asked if I could get the slideshow. I was told I could get the slideshow. I'm still waiting for the slideshow. So I'm going to release that part as separate, but everything else I'm just going to release. And at some point in time, I might edit it down, but I'll probably just write a story about it because I am a writer and not a videographer. Actually, I can shoot a pretty mean video. I just don't like the editing. The editing. Anyways, so here you go. This is really long, so uh, feel free to skip around, watch it in bits, whatever. Um, but yeah, this is Let's Talk from Wednesday of earlier this week.
Mayor Krakoka, and thank you to Council and Mayor for the invite tonight. I want to go through a few topics tonight, and I know it's been such a difficult, almost 3 months already now, and there was some difficult news today, as there has been every day, so I want to recognize that, and just let you know that at every stage of this process, our board and all the teams that are working on the response to the tragedy that took place on February 10th, do everything with what's called a trauma-informed lens, because enough harm was done on that day that we don't want to make that worse and make things more difficult for people that are healing. So I'm covering a few topics tonight that will give you a bit of an update on where we're at in this process, and then some other news about our board's role in the community here. So first of all, our phase 1 and phase 2 temporary facilities. I think we have a couple of slides coming up here where that I will be talking about, and then consultation on permanent secondary school facilities, childcare facilities, and then I give you information on how to get more information about School District 59 work. But a big part of my job tonight is to express a lot of thanks for those that have helped out and served the community so well over the last number of weeks. But before I get started on that, I just want to introduce my colleagues that are present here tonight. So Trustee Christina Wards, Trustee Angelina Sherman in the front row here. So they are both the Big City trustees for Dawson Creek. And they were able to join me tonight. And of course, you know, your counselor and trustee Roxanne Julik. She is the one trustee for Tumbler Ridge. And then we have I am Chad Anderson, the one of the two rural Dawson Creek trustees, and then we have two trustees in Chetwynd as well, who were not able to attend tonight. So our board is made up of 7 trustees, and as you can imagine, our focus in the last almost 3 months has really been on Tumbler Ridge. So tonight I want to kind of give you some updates on those items that are under our purview as the board and the next steps that we're looking forward to taking. But for those of you that have been to a PAC meeting or met with a principal or a teacher in the past, you'll know that our recommendation to do the best job of resolving parent concerns is always to start with that staff member that's nearest the concern. Speaking to the teacher, speaking to the principal, and if you don't have success in resolving your concerns, then you go to the board office and give a call to the folks there at the board office in Dawson Creek. And of course, if you have questions about process at any point, your trustee will be able to direct you into the right people to talk to. But obviously, we don't, in PAC meetings or in public meetings like this, we wouldn't deal with, you know, a classroom concern or details with individuals. So the phase 1, we have so many thanks to share tonight. First of all, to the staff right here in Tumbler Ridge of School District 59 and our district staff that have really worked tirelessly since the tragedy on February 10th. The hours that our district staff have put in community from the next day, day by day, dealing with the issues that came up immediately and making sure that we had the right supports in place for students, staff, and families. They were very active in the community. Our counselors from our counseling department were in place and in the school bright and early the morning after this event, and then you know, the mayor asked for boots on the ground, and there was no shortage of boots on the ground, both from our district and from the province. Any number of ministries that were involved that brought in counseling teams, and then as we got, you know, within a few days, the Ministry of Education and Childcare and the Ministry of Infrastructure had these phase 1 single wide trailers on trucks and on their way here. They actually belong to BC Wildfire Service, so they will need those back. Unfortunately, you know, as we come into the spring and summer. So we're looking forward to. I think we have a couple photos here, Karen, of the obviously you saw those. I took a picture. You know, I chose the picture when that nice white clean snow was in place. It's gotten a little muddier since then, so apologies to all those that were looking forward to soccer season, but the Ministry of Infrastructure, we are confident will restore that field to better than what it was before, when we're able to move students out of this phase 1 into the phase 2 facility. So there's another photo of those with the crane in place. Again, carefully selected photo with a little bit of snow on the ground. So a lot of work has been done there. There was a slight delay with getting utilities in and a couple other construction elements. Unfortunately, when the ground softened and thawed out in the spring, there was a little movement, so back came the crane and moved them out, and footings were poured, and now we have concrete ramps that are going, that are in place, so that this still temporary, but phase 2 facility with double wide trailers that are a lot more like portable classrooms that you see in a lot of schools across BC, that those will be as comfortable as possible for students as soon as we can move into them in the next few weeks here. And then later on in the summer, I believe we have kind of a central office and lunchroom building that will be coming in as well. So just want to express deep thanks to the Ministry of Infrastructure. You'll recall that they were kind of created as a ministry that was to fast track major projects. And I grew up in Alberta, so I have I have this congenital defect that thinks that government is slow. But I can assure you that the Ministry of Infrastructure does not move slowly. They had our Phase 1 portables, Phase 2 school on trucks on its way here to Tumbler Ridge the week of the tragedy. They were on their way here, coming through snowstorms and battling whatever weather they encountered. So I'm amazed and impressed with their work, and also thankful to the Premier and the Ministry of Infrastructure, Ministry of Education. All of the costs for the massive amounts of work that you have seen take place in your community, effectively, within a few days, going from one secondary school to effectively 3 secondary schools in your community. They weren't ready to go yet, but all of those costs have been covered by the Ministry of Education in the province. Your schools have not seen any expense in terms of those facilities. Obviously, the time of staff and staff at our district is incalculable, but all of those infrastructure costs have been covered by the Ministry of Infrastructure. And these Phase 2 buildings, which we hope to see in use in the coming weeks, those are going to become property of the school district. So that'll be reflected on our books, but it's not an expense coming out of our budgets. So that is much appreciated, and just emphasize throughout that we have felt no lack of support from the province, and we're really appreciative of that. Thanks to the PAC for inviting me to attend, as well as with Roxanne, their first meeting in March, to address some questions that inevitably will come up when we have a traumatic situation such as this, and the amount of change that we've had to put student, staff, and families through in a short period of time. So we appreciate the opportunity to answer those questions. And as we were getting ready for that return to education spaces at first, and then return to education, and pulling into more of a regular educational schedule, in the days before that reopening, our district staff split the list of every family in the community that had students in school, and spoke to every family in the community and answered questions, and then built from that a Q&A document that is available on our website at sd59.bc.ca, and you'll see other regular updates in place there. So obviously, there still are unanswered questions and more change to come, and that's always frustrating, but we're expecting that with that Phase 2 opening soon, that people will be in more comfortable learning environments, and the schedule will normalize a bit. But the amount of work that has gone into ensuring that, particularly our grade 12s, with grad coming up at the end of the year, nothing was missed there, as we ensured that the educational program continues for students that were comfortable to come back. And also, we've really ramped up our distributed learning program for students that were not feeling ready to come back to classrooms. And so those students are being served in that way as well. And obviously, as I mentioned, that trauma-informed lens, our top priority is that people will heal and recover in the long term. Throughout this process, there were questions about things moving too fast or too slow. Our consultations with staff and students and families throughout were aimed at ensuring that people will come back when they're ready, and then again, they can expect our support and the counseling and mental health support, that they can really heal before they are brought back into classrooms. We didn't want to rush anyone back too soon. The next item that I'll mention here is the consultation on secondary educational facilities, the permanent facilities that we would like to see in place in the future. And so this is nearing completion, this important part of the process, and I just want to thank our critical incident response team, school safety teams, which is under the Ministry of Education, operated in partnership with the Ministry of Education, an organization called Safer Schools Together, that has really led this consultation and prioritized meeting first with families of immediate victims of of the tragedy, and then expanding out from there into those that were affected by being present in the school that day in terms of students and staff, and then other families in the community, and then ramping that up. You would have seen a good bit of promotion in the last couple of weeks about really opening that survey up to the community in general, and so that process has been underway for a number of weeks now and is nearing its completion, and so we're thankful for that work being done, and particularly because it is being done by Safer Schools Together that has that trauma counseling expertise and training, and unfortunately they're experienced in school tragedies such as this. They're based in BC, but they do work all over North America, and it's unfortunate that you'd have to have experts in that field, but we do, and we're so thankful that they've helped us through this process, because there's just no way that we would have been able to get done in, if we're at 11 weeks now, no way we'd be able to get that done without those boots on the ground that were brought in to really help us through this process. So that consultation, again, prioritizing those that were most affected, the report from that will be considered by the board as we look forward to the next steps in the process, and as we make our request to the province known, because it is still the local school board that makes the decisions about long-term facilities in the community, and so we look forward to reporting back on that as those next steps get underway. So next up on the list is Child Care Center. So this is an application that went into the province some years ago now. I think when I was just a small child as a trustee, and then eventually it was approved, and then the costs increased, and then an application for the cost increases to be approved went in, and very recently, I think this was presented at our last meeting in April this month, that we have been approved for the additional costs for that facility. So we have one approved here in Tumbler Ridge and one at Tremblay Elementary in Dawson Creek. So we're excited to see that take shape. And there's one more slide here, Karen, which is kind of the location that has been planned throughout. And you know very well that the Tumbler Ridge Elementary grounds are looking crowded as it is, but this is, so Tumbler Ridge Elementary is just over here. This is the kind of the street, I would call it behind the school. That would be the right terminology for locals. So right now this is kind of intended to be a parking lot for the phase 2 area, but it will still work for this child care center, and so that the next steps and getting the construction plans put together are coming forward soon. So lots of activity in that neighborhood. I apologize to all those that have to put up with the noise. I understand even the mayor is within earshot of all the, not quite, okay, I thought you were pretty close. So some have been listening to generators run for the phase 1 facilities. We're looking forward to turning those off at the appropriate time. Anyway, more construction business to come there. So thank you to the patience of those that do live in that neighborhood. And then quickly to wrap up, so there's a floor plan there, and before and after school care, and anyway, more information is available on our website, which you see before you there. For these projects, you'll see those under, I think, finance and capital projects, and so you can see kind of the whole plan for those projects. But anyway, so sd59.bc.ca. We have upcoming board meetings. Normally our May meeting is held in Tumbler Ridge. We move our meetings around in fair weather. So we expect to be here later in the month of May, although given what we've been through, we've all had to learn to become particularly flexible, but at the moment, anyway, you can find that on the school district website. That agenda will be posted later in the month, and times and locations will be available there. So that is my update, and I'll turn the floor back to the mayor.
Sitting down. Thanks for your update. I really appreciate it. Just before we go to opening the floor to the community, not everybody has social media. We're well aware of that. There was an announcement, a joint announcement today with the District of Tumbler Ridge and Northern Health and that is in regards to the ER after hours. That is a commitment not only from the elected official side and the community from Tumbler Ridge, but Northern Health's commitment as well. There is going to be some dialogue that has to take place on what that model looks like and how we flux it in or flux it out. So it's going to happen. I don't have a timeline. I don't have all the concept of what that looks like. Again, I would think, I'll say whether that's a month from now, that there'll be another update. I would think that's how fast this will work or will go. It's a pilot. The pilot does not mean that, oh, no, now we're ER is closed again. The pilot, they're using this word pilot because we may have to change different things of it to make it actually work. I believe this will be, Tumbler Ridge is going to be used for other places in the province. That's how I understand. There's other communities that are like Tumbler Ridge, having recruitment concerns and retention concerns, have small amount of visits throughout the evening that backlogs fatigue on the doctors and the nurses. So as this process comes forward, announcements will come out regularly from ourselves. So on our website with the District of Tumbler Ridge and through Northern Health. So statement was pretty vague today. It's because we have not completed everything. ER shut down September 4th, 2025. We immediately sat on a table with Northern Health. We had some of our staff at the table. We had our medical advisor, Dr. Helm, at the table. I think it was a rough go. I'm going to be straightforward. It was hostile. Hostile. Not only from their side, but from my side. I took offense to it. So, you're angry, frustrated. So we actually didn't go anywhere. I'll be straightforward about that. I wouldn't say it was held up by the mayor, but I do think that could we have come to something sooner, possibly. I do believe Northern Health dug their feet in as well, thinking that we would all lay down, which I can tell you right now, the elected members up here did not lay down, nor did our staff and nor did our community. And I think that's what's made the change is the community standing up, the community constantly complaining. You got elected officials constantly at them. So then I believe it was. I mean, you can ask Dr. Helm after the meeting, but it was a fairly rough meeting when we're calling out staff at Northern Health for rolling their eyes at us as we're talking. So mentally, it was not a good place to be. So I'd say that was probably all of the months of September and part of October that I did have a medical situation. So we didn't dialogue really in October a whole bunch. I tried for my hospital bed, very tough. We started dialoguing probably mid-November, and I'll say the dialogue did not include the whole table. The dialogue was with myself and Cheryl, their CEO, knowing that it was unhealthy for his staff, but also our medical advisor was unhealthy for him, as well as the mayor, as well as our district staff. It just wasn't a good place. We made a trip to Prince George in a snowstorm that we plowed snow with our vehicle to meet with the board on December 8th. I actually went in there with a different concept. I'll be honest. I talked to the minister quite a bit as well, but I was going to go in there with a different concept and more or less expect them to chuck me out of the meeting and then let the council that attended as well as our medical advisor and staff take over the meeting. But that night, Sunday night, sleeping, I thought it would probably be the wrong way to go after a non-directional board. So, I thought about it a lot, went in with a different attitude that morning. Talked with the board chair and Cheryl before I sat down after council had entered the room. When I talked to, I'm just going to back up a bit, when I talked to the Minister of Health the night before, she just told me to be frank with the board, be straight frank with them. The board is in between the minister herself and her staff. That's the in between them and Northern Health. Chiro and his staff. The minister can't directly give direction. She can do protocols. So we were frank. I think it's too bad it wasn't videotaped because I'll tell you it was well planned just on how the process went. Council said some stuff and I'd come back to it and Dr. Howell would come back to it. I believe the board listened. They're a non-directional board, but I think they listened. When we left that meeting, I don't remember what time we left, 10 o'clock, something, an hour at the board, something like that. They were supposed to immediately go to another meeting. That meeting was suspended for an hour. My understanding, to share it, she didn't tell me I couldn't, so I'm gonna share it. I know the board chair and the Minister of Health had a conversation for an hour-long conversation after we left. So I think after that, Cheryl and I still continued to work. Nothing was really said of what direction we were going. But knowing we had to get back in dialogue for this community and not have that hostility and the anger and not keeping, not having his staff in the room, I think helped move it forward. And I'll be honest, we left Dr. Helmut as well as our medical advisor. Probably not the best thing to do, but again, to try to move it forward for our community, I think it was the best step. You've seen the announcement today. There'll be more announcements coming. I think it's, I was asked today when I did an interview, do you actually think they've committed to it? It's committed. That's 100%. I don't know the time frame. We will have after hours ER back in Tumbler Ridge. And that's because of the residents and the elected officials. And I honestly believe the Ministry of Health, medical advisor for sure, and then obviously Northern Health coming back to the table. So you can ask questions. There's not a whole bunch we can fill you in on the plan until we move it forward. So we'll be now meeting on a regular basis and going forward. I know we have some doctors in the room, but I would ask you to not share what you may have heard from Northern Health. I think it's inappropriate, so it's not an appropriate place to talk about it here until those processes come up. I've seen we have some staff in here and I don't want them being put on the spot. But the floor is everybody else's. Come up and hammer council. Council, not the mayor.
Please feel free. Anybody has questions, want to mention say your name and ask away. You can obviously ask questions for the school district.
Hi, so I'm Tamara Poplock. I'm one of the doctors here, one of the 2 doctors here. So without going into any details of what may or may not have been promised, I still want to point out that there is still only 2 doctors in town. So there's still only 2 doctors in town, and the doctors have not been involved in any of these conversations with the board, the mayor, Ministry of Health, Northern Health. They are being excluded from this, which means planning how the ER will run is honestly impossible without having input of those who are actually going to do the running of the ER. So that will include the doctors, the nurses, the lab, and the x-ray. So until then, I honestly don't think anything can be considered finalized when we don't know if you're going to have staff here.
No, appreciate your comments, big comment there. I don't think anything's confirmed, like in regards to the model. Do I think Northern Health will do their job as an employer and reach out to their staff? That's their job. And I think that's why you've seen the announcement, how it came today. It gives an opportunity for engagement from the Northern Health side. Again, I'm not the employer. I'm an elected official for the municipality of District Tumbler Ridge. I'm not the employer for the nurses, the doctors, x-ray or lab. But I do believe the engagement will happen with the employer and their staff. That would be the right process.
Sorry, I should just clarify that doctors aren't employees of Northern Health. They're contracted to provide a service, and there's very specific things in that contract. So Northern Health can't actually dictate what the doctors will do. So they really need to be able to come to the table since we're not employees.
Yeah, again, I think the announcement came out today, and my apologies to you, Tamara, about that. You get not employees, you have a contract, and I guess those will be contract negotiations with Northern Health. And again, I do believe the engagement happened. That's just something I won't be partaking in. Doctors don't work for the mayor either.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Pakaluk. I think that's definitely a point of advocacy that we can have on your behalf. We've definitely been seeing that trend recently of not talking to our local people. So that's something that we could definitely do, and we should be doing, is ensuring that the Ministry of Health is talking to our local professionals to ensure that whatever model they bring into place, that they recognize that it's still people powered, and the people here know what will work and what won't. So thanks for doing that.
Hi, I really want to be heard, so this doesn't seem to be working. If I talk like this, the whole stuck. But it's not.
That would have been pretty
Okay, no problem. I'm just gonna speak.
probably not long enough.
That's it.
Success.
Okay, I think that's better. Yeah, thank you. Good. First, Yvonne Poulin. I am speaking from my heart as an individual, but also as one of the organizers of the Tumbler Ridge Community Healing Space. And I may have to sit down because I feel sick. Thank you to the staff and to our whole municipal government around how you have dealt with our tragedy. I truly mean that. However, I feel like our approach to healing has been inefficient. We had a lot of mental health care workers at the beginning working out of the community healing space. The community center here. That was fantastic. It was well attended. You could see people coming and going. That then shifted to the hospital. And I'd be very interested to get the stats on that because those people are not busy. Those mental health care workers are not busy. And so I had the registered social workers and the registered clinical counselors saying, hey, what can we do? Because you've got the busiest place in town. And of course, I'm referring to the healing space. So the medical system thinks, okay, trauma, let's go help these people with mental health illness. But they cut us off at the head and they don't look at the rest of the body or the somatic side of healing. Statistics show that if we have early intervention with mental health care, somatic, trauma-informed somatic release, that we have way fewer instances of people with ongoing depression, loss of jobs, loss of work, loss of wages, et cetera, et cetera. I'm really frustrated because I went directly to Northern Health and said, look, is there any way that we can put the the counseling team, really associate them with the healthcare team that we're getting together? And without a blink of an eye, Becky said, no, we could not sanction that. There was just absolutely no question. So, two of us, Irina Sivendino from Grand Cache, who was a visiting therapist here, acupuncturist, she spent a lot of time getting Acupuncturists Without Borders together to create a system that we could work with. And since then, for the month, we were on the ground from February 14th to the end of March. We treated 715 people with free, hands-on, trauma-informed care. And I take offense that we were not assisted in any way by local government. We are not cut off at the head. We are human beings, and I'd really like you guys to consider that we need a holistic approach. We're going to be running for the month of May, but what we had to do was beg, borrow, and practically steal to get that happening. And I just want to say thank you to all of you who have contributed to the Tumbler Ridge Community Healing Space, including all of you who may have donated. One of the biggest kicks in my gut was that Town Hall would not allow us to put our donation link on your site. And I worked and worked and worked on that, and while I realized that your answer is because your,
Community charter.
the charter places limitations on what can be done. It's like, you guys, are you serious? Could you not make an exception for this? We are not okay. I think you know that, and I think even now, we are not okay, and we are not going to be okay for quite some time. The fact that you didn't recognize that we had a donation that was run through a registered charity right here at the municipal library, and you wouldn't put it on in those first crucial weeks and months when people were keen to donate, I take offense to that. So I hope that whatever you've got in that $2 million budget for health has something to do with complementary healthcare medicine, because we are tired of fighting. That's it.
Yeah, Yvonne, thanks for stepping up and talking. can you make an exception to a charter? We follow the charter because that's the guidebook. We didn't make the charter.
You didn't make the charter, but the charter says you have limitations.
Yeah, I think when you talk limitations, it's probably a different factor. So I'll be honest, was I aware of your request? I was. I'm not sure if all council was, but it's not our, not trying to put this back on anybody within the district. A lot of that stuff is not decided by the elected officials. Again, staff have to follow the direction of the charter and the direction from council. If we didn't see an ask where we could debate it and stuff, but we have to make sure that we're doing it the legal way and the right way. And it's not, I'm not trying to disrespect you or the organization. I don't know how much, 715 people that you helped. I think it was very important. So don't get me wrong, and I think you know that, how I feel there. I mean, I understand your frustration and stuff, and I'll be honest, I'm going to say it's the same thing about these funds. I mean, again, those funds, we'd have to be careful where we spend them. If you become a registered charity or a not-for-profit organization, you can apply for a fee-for-service or a grant aid. For us, just to start funding, we wouldn't call it private, understand a lot of volunteer hours went in from February 14th to the end of March, as well as this month here. But if there's not a society that council's hands really become tied, as elected officials, it really, and I'm not trying to just lead you away, I'm just trying to be honest and frank. That's the only way I know how to be.
Even though we are a program within the public library.
Public library may follow a different mandate under the Library Act, that we may be allowed to have collect those funds on their site. There might be a different window than compared to the charter. So for us to try to fund something out of the municipality through elected officials, you'd have to be a non-for-profit or for that to apply for a grant aid.
Or
To be
a
honest.
registered charity?
Or I'd have to, maybe, I'll be honest, I can't remember all of it. I'm trying to, some of it I'm winging. When we talk about counseling, and do I have all the information? No, I'm not a counselor myself. Yes, it was very busy. Again, this community center is the heart of the community. Say it all the time. It's the hub. It's where our youth and our children and our adults feel safe at all times. I mean, our children and our youth have never stopped hanging out at the community center, even before the event. That was my concern about moving, I'll be honest, the support system out of the community center over into the TR Youth and Children's Center, as well over into the health center. That was a big concern that I kept a pulse on the whole time, to be honest. I don't sit at the EOC table, but I definitely have a voice where I can send it to make sure that we're tracking that. My understanding during spring break, we've seen a downslide of visits. I can say since spring break's been over, it's been an upswing on both locations, at the health center facility as well as the TR Strong, and I'm probably getting the wording of the building because it's named, but they've seen a huge uptick as well. Do I have the numbers right in front of me? I don't. I can find out if I'm allowed to share those or if they'll share them themselves. There's no information, obviously, on patient contact and who they are, but they do have age statistics there and how much it's climbed. And I'll be honest, I don't think that those numbers have changed in regards to the increase that they're seeing at both locations. So when you make a comment that it's dead over there and they're not seeing anybody, to be frank, the information I'm seeing is totally different. Now during spring break, you may have seen it downswing, but since spring break, whether that's adults, some older youth, and even some of the younger children are starting to reach out and connect. Right now, the services in this community that we have with Foundry, the school has their own counselors as well in the community, but Northern Health has brought in some. They've advertised a full-time position for Tumbler Ridge just recently. That I'm very well aware of that announcement before it did happen. So there will be a full-time position in our Northern Health unit for mental health counseling. Yeah, I can find out if we get those numbers. I have no problem sharing it. If it's not, I'm not going to say they're secret. I just don't know how public those numbers are. I don't have the numbers in my email. I'd have to ask for them. But I have no problem sharing it. Where you can see, I'll say flat lines during spring break, a lot of people leaving our community, whether that was in the sunshine of Mexico or wherever. But when they return to our community, that's where they see the uptick.
Do you see the value of having physical supports as well as mental supports?
Thanks for that, Yvonne. I was going to say we're three parts. We're body, mind, and spirit. right? If one of those is not in sync with the rest, the body's out of sync, right? So I definitely recognize the importance of having a healthy body, having a healthy mind, and having a healthy spirit. I think what the mayor is talking to is the challenge of how allied healthcare professionals are seen by the medical system. Right? We talk about the community charter. Now, the community charter, so everyone's aware, is that we cannot provide assistance to business unless we receive some sort of reciprocal worth back out of it. So if we give any sort of assistance, we have to get that amount back. And the reason why is that it keeps government and business separate, because they're two different entities. There's not-profit, there's for-profit. And they don't want us be supplying community funds towards that. Now, one of the challenges, and the mayor alluded to this as well, is the community charter could be up to interpretation, right? But we are aware that you cannot access private business, and at this time, Northern Health, the healthcare system says allied healthcare is private, which I've had issues with myself when I tried to bring in private healthcare to help the community, and it didn't work out because there came these issues before. But see, the pitfall, if we did go down this road and we had a potential challenge to the community charter, what would that cost us, right? That could cost us legal fees in having to either prove or disprove this acceptance or allowance, like this what you call, can we just do it one time? Right? I think that's the danger. Until it's proven that we can go outside of the community charter for this, we could be in a lot of legal trouble and ministerial trouble by being the first case to potentially challenge that. And that would mean our municipal funds would have to go towards that, and that we don't know what that'll cost. I know our municipal lawyers are $500 to $1,000 an hour. So these are some of the things that we have to think about before we even entertain those ideas. I do like the idea how you mentioned that your fund went to a nonprofit society or a charity. Maybe it needs to be worded a little differently or handled differently for us to allow that, but I definitely want to support body, mind, and spirit. One of the biggest challenges I see in this instance is the allied healthcare, and it's in this relationship with Northern Health. It's unfortunately, I'm sure you were very tough.
I'm Melody Bainton. My comment, I'm a TRSS student. My comment's more towards SD 59. You talked about your consultations and how it is important to to communicate with those directly affected, including students. But in your consultations, the one that you shared online, it didn't have a student option in it. If you filled out student in the other, you got a significantly smaller consultation than adults. So the students' consultations were 2 questions. The rest of the consultations, as far as I'm aware, were, I think, 5 questions, and 4. I'm wondering why that is.
Melody, right?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Melody, for raising that, because I know that has been a concern and a question. And so the survey that went out to the community and families online was a little different than the process used in the school, because there was the consultation that took place in classrooms, and it kind of started with 2 questions, and then a your voice section, which kind of brought those 2 pieces together. So the 2 approaches, one was like for an online survey, and then the classroom one for students. It really covered all the same topics, but it was an opportunity for students in the classroom to actually discuss that together and in the presence of the Safer Schools Together experts who were there and present. And I know in the end it covered the same topics, but just approached it in a different way, which was aimed at making that feel safe for students and giving them an opportunity to do that through an open conversation in a different way.
I just feel like students were not given the same amount of questions that parents and adults were given. I've seen the parent one. There was different questions about having like K-12 school and stuff, and I don't understand why we are, as students, getting less opportunity to answer things that we're going to have to deal with. It's our school. Why aren't we getting the same amount of questions?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I think the 2 different approaches were designed by those with trauma experts and with an awareness of the conversation in the classroom was meant to cover the same topics, but in a way that was appropriate to students. So, but I mean, if you're if there's more input, I mean, feel free to come and talk to us after, you know, to give your thoughts on that K-12 question, which, yeah, it was covered differently in those two approaches. But I'd be happy to hear from you if you wanted to chat after the meeting. You could give us your input on that. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Okay, I just want to add to this. I am an EA at the school. I don't remember this voice conversation you're talking about. They came in, they gave them a survey. It was 2 questions. It was actually 3. What grade are you in? There was no question, comment back. I work directly with the 7s who were directly affected. They have never once had their voice on anything about what they want from this school. They're going to be the ones that hit this school. The one that just spoke is never going to see our new school. These 7s need a voice. They need their opinion. I've heard rumors we're not going to get our trade facilities because we're going to be registered. No, I want to be cleared on this. When you go to build this school, it's on who's registered at our school right now. We've lost a quarter of our school. So if you're going to build us a school at 140 students, this town has way more than that, right? We need a bigger school. I've been told also when I went into the consultation that the school we had was bigger than we needed. That is a blatant lie. I worked in it for 11 years. We were in a media lab that had no windows, no nothing. It was not built as a classroom. We were in it. So I'm getting frustrated on, sure, this communication is going, but it's not going to the right people. It's not going to the staff and students who need that voice in that building. I have 3/4 of my staff that aren't even working anymore. Okay, I get the stress of everything, but you guys doing all these decisions without our voices, I'm scared we're not gonna have any staff when you build us this school. My plan was to retire here. I have plenty of years to be here in this school. Right now, I don't know. It's not just because of the situation what occurred. Yes, I'm heartbroken, but I wanna be there for my kids, but I just feel like no one's getting a voice. And something's gotta change. We're the ones that need the voice. The kids, the staff, yes, parents do too, but they don't go there every day. I'm a parent of a student. I get it, we do, but we need our children to be talked to a lot more than it's saying on the news that we're being talked to, because we're not. Thank you.
Thank you for raising that. And yeah, I'm confident. You know, everybody's going to interpret those meetings in different ways, but I think the consultation that's been done on this is it's deep and wide, and I mean, inevitably there'll be opinions that you know, there's going to be differences of opinion at the end, and so I just appreciate your service to students, but I also appreciate the work that was done by Safer Schools Together, and the board will be considering all of that, and I know that the conversations did take place with grade 7s, did have opportunities for the students to express themselves in an open way, and I know that for some of those students in the school, you know, some of those conversations were difficult, and so that care that was taken in those conversations was because those experts knew that those conversations would be difficult, so they took great care in designing that and in having conversations with each of those classrooms. So. And then on the question of the enrollment and how that might affect how the school is planned, I said this at the PAC meeting that we attended. I have, I mean, of all the things I've lost sleep over the last 2.5 months, I am not worried about the province going to short shrift Temple Ridge based on, you know, playing with enrollment numbers. We know that there are students that are in our distributed learning program that, you know, as they get time and healing, we expect they will return to in-class instruction. The province knows that, Ministry of Education knows that. We saw that through the COVID experience as well. There were a number of people that switched to distributed learning through that process, and sometimes they are in our distributed learning program here in district, and then they're still, appearing in our budget and in our enrollment figures. But even through COVID, people were aware that, yes, some kids went to some of the other online schools that are out of district and independent online schools. So, but I have no doubt, and I'm confident of this in the conversations we've had with the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Infrastructure, and the Premier's commitments that there has been no penny pinching in this process, and so that's not a fear that I'm living with at the moment, is that they're going to try and squeeze or pinch those numbers down, because I know that was expressed in that PAC meetings, like, should we put our kids in DL, or is that going to affect our numbers, in the school? My focus then, as now, is that your students need to be in the learning environment that works for them, and I have no doubt that the province is going to take good care of this community and not pick a number on a given day to try and be chintzy with Temple Ridge. I just don't see that happening. So, yeah, thank you for raising that concern, and I'll relay both of those concerns to our board for sure.
I can't answer on behalf of School District 59 or the province. But Melanie, I want to say one thing, getting up here and having your say, I think it's important.
Thank you.
I really think that's important. I'll be straightforward with you. We don't make a decision as the report is flushed out and the information goes to the school district board and they start flushing out. What I can promise you as elected officials, all of us as elected officials, will make sure that whatever is needed for if that's a new school or whatever gets flushed out, we'll be there for our community and our residents, and our children and our youth. I'll make that promise. Chad's very clear. I went to Victoria last week for a whole week, and I don't know, I didn't count all the meetings, but I'm over 20 meetings in 4 days. Met with the Premier 4 times. They will listen. They're going to listen to the school district. You'll still have a voice there, because we're here to advocate on your voice, right? So we don't have to be on like, we don't want to do the job of the school board. They have a very, they have a big job and stuff like that, but we're also there to work with the school board and advocate too. But when it comes to our community with the children, the youth, and your parents, our job as elected officials for the district is to go and advocate on your comments. And meeting with ministry while I was down there, I don't think we're at the point of knowing what the next step is. I know you're talking about a new school, and maybe that's what comes of it. So I don't know yet. But what I can tell you is that there was no talk about there of, the school, if it did go that way, won't get this or won't get that. Again, we'll flush that out, and again, we will do our job and such the whole way through, whether that's working with Chad and his team, just to advocate on our side too. It's important for the community, but I want to appreciate you getting up there and having your voice heard and ask as many questions you want. But to see a young person come to a meeting, feel comfortable to stand up there, and I think it's so important. So I wanted to clap, but maybe it was the wrong thing to do, but it's really important to see it. Sometimes nerves get to you, but you did an amazing job. But that's what this council is here for. I'm going to be straightforward about that. And that is working with the school. Again, I don't want to do their job. I have a big enough job, and they already have their own job. But ministry has been listening. Be honest with you, they're listening all the time. I feel bad that maybe the survey questions were a bit different, and it was flushed, and that's come out a couple times. And it has gone all the way to the ministry, just so you're aware. It went there by the mayor.
It was heard in Victoria, no, sir.
Hello. Will students have the opportunity to do the same survey as the parents? And then, I feel like a lot of us are just feeling in the dark, and I really appreciate you guys giving your word that you're doing all that you can, and, that you're working as hard as you can, and that, there's no penny pinching. But we're obviously all concerned about the future of our school. So can you give us any notion of when phase 3 maybe will happen, what your goals are for that, or even if we'll get to see the Safer Schools survey or information that was taken?
Thank you. Roxanne write all those questions for me? So I'll start with the last, and then if I have to beg or rewinding, I will do that. But in terms of the report itself, as it was advertised throughout, it's a confidential consultation, but the summary of it will certainly be coming out, because we want the community to understand what the feedback was in its complete form, but not to the extent where we can identify individuals.
Of course.
So obviously, great care will be taken on the summary that's prepared, but
Do you have a
that
timeline on that by chance?
soon.
Okay.
Yeah, it really, again, there's two things that I would say. I'm not worried about the penny pinching concern. We have received assurances to that effect in conversations throughout. And then on the other hand, as I boasted before about being amazed at the speed that the Ministry of Infrastructure worked in terms of getting the phase 1 and phase 2 facilities in place, there's no interest on the part of the board or the province to delay a long-term secondary school facility for this community. So as soon as we can, as a board, review those recommendations, make decisions on what we can request of the ministry, that'll be promptly communicated to the community. But as I think I alluded to earlier, our approach has always been in that trauma-informed lens to ensure that particularly families of victims will not hear this in the news. So our approach will be to speak to the people that were most affected by this, speak to them first, and then that communication will go over them. I don't have a specific timeline, but it is.
What is the goal? What is the goal for phase 3?
In terms of opening?
Sure, starting, opening.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I don't have an opening.
We were all really concerned when you guys started pouring concrete, because that seemed
Yeah.
very permanent.
Yeah, oh, I know.
And I don't want to see my kids graduate out of there. Like,
I know.
they won't. They won't.
Yeah, so I know that, believe it or not, a trustee or two asked, why are they pouring concrete? That looks so permanent. It's not permanent. Concrete can be poured and it can be removed, and the Ministry of Infrastructure is very talented at both of those. So, yeah, don't take the concrete and rebar to mean more than it does, except that it'll be easier to shovel in the next winter because snow comes quickly. We hope to have news soon on the request from the board, and then conversations with the ministry thereafter. So I don't want to get really specific on the timeline because we have had issues in the past of expecting phase 2 to open on a certain date, and then it gets delayed by a few weeks. So.
And then are we able to open up the survey for the students, the same survey? Is that a possibility?
So you asked me for speed in.
I know, I got a couple questions.
On one hand, asked me for speed on one hand for phase 3.
I just want clarity. I just want to know, I mean, if you said 5 years down the road, like, I just want to know what the goal is.
You mean 5 years for phase
3?
Or,
Like,
or the
what's our,
long-term? Not 5 years.
okay,
Not
okay.
5 years.
I'm holding you to it.
I think not 5 years is something I feel very confident
If you
about.
build a school, it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years, so, I mean, even if they rush it, we can't expect a school built in a year. So I'm going on this, like,
Yeah.
we can't expect it to be done in a year or two. And we also live in Tumbler Ridge where everything's frozen for 8 months, right?
I can assure you that whenever our board asks the Ministry of Infrastructure questions about do they understand the North, we get, they make faces because they do a lot of projects in the North. They did this project in a blizzard. Our folks at our district were like, were they really bringing those in? Like, you realize there's a snowfall warning and it was a blizzard. Anyway, those trucks rolled in. We have very industrious people up here, for one, and the folks that work at the Ministry of Infrastructure get things done. And so, not 5 years. 1 year does sound pretty snappy, but anyway. So yeah, we're anxious to, for the sake of the community, indecision or unknowns are really uncomfortable. We know that that is not helping people right now, not knowing what the next step is and not knowing, which of my kids in, grade 10, 6, 4, which of them are gonna be able to see the last day of phase 1, that's very soon. But which of those students are gonna graduate out of phase 2 and which of them are going to see the longer term solution here. So we know that dragging this out, particularly with our short construction seasons, is not in the best interest of a trauma-informed approach to serving this community. So soon.
Linda, can I get an opportunity to address the last two questions? Thank you. So I think one of the key themes that we've seen from the last two questions, and we have 4 school district board members here, is that the engagements that have been done are not feeling satisfactory to the people that are being. So I hope that's something that we could take back. At the PAC, I'm sure we could have that discussion as well about, we appreciate that engagement has gone, but we're looking at continual engagement because we're all traveling differently through through this grief and tragedy process, and opinions change. So I think it's a good idea to have continual engagement to make sure that they're fair and honest, that the students are being treated with white gloves or differently than parents. Because realistically, we need to hear from the students, we need to hear from the parents, we need to hear from the teachers as well, because they're the ones who have to go back to the building, and we're charging them to look after our children more hours a day than we get to see them. So I thank you, Mel. I hope to see you in a leadership position sometime in the future. You speak so well, yeah, that's definitely something that is loud and clear that engagement is not enough. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you, Linda.
Hi there. Thank you for being here with us today. What I'm hearing from, is it Melody? Melody is these students, I feel that maybe all of their voices hasn't been heard. And I know that the survey has been completed from the School District 59. But I think as a community member, if I'm hearing from a student that many students feel that they didn't actually have their views encompassed properly, it's not too late. I mean, we're hearing right now that we have a segment of our students who feel that they weren't heard. Let's make it happen, because going forward, we don't want to have folks saying, well, I didn't get a chance for my voice to be heard. Is there any way that we can give them that opportunity? And I know that probably the best way for these, for their voices to be heard would be in a safe environment, like the classroom where they have that support. But is there not the possibility that a number of students weren't in that classroom and their voice wasn't heard because they weren't in the classroom? So I'm not sure how that survey collected everybody, but it does sound like we need to have a bit more work going so that the people who are going to be going to our school can continue going to our school feeling that they were heard. I think as a community, I think that we all feel that these kids need to have their voice heard.
I just want to emphasize again that great care was taken in the design of that process and in the implementation of that process and in the qualification of everyone that participated in that process. So, for example, at the end, and I'll come back to students, but at the end of this process, when we did all the extra social media promotion about other community members taking part, a lot of filtering had to be done to make sure that we were not letting the data be skewed by people that had no right to be in that process. And so that was done at the late end of the process, and then at the beginning of the process, great care was taken in making sure that we got the input of everyone that wanted to give input. Of course, not everyone wants to take part in any given process, but all those that were eligible to take part in that process, I just want to emphasize my confidence in the care that was taken to give everyone an opportunity to provide that input. And so I'm confident of that. I don't want to, I think the process is such that we want to make sure that nobody is heard or recorded multiple times. So again, qualification was done to make sure that people participate in the process once and not, under this category, under this category, under that category. So it's not our goal to have repeated conversations with different people, but we did want to make sure that we got to everybody, and I'm confident that has been done.
Hi, I'm Paige Irving. I'm senior at the school, so I'm graduating here in 2 months. Thank you. I just want you to explain to us what was on the adult survey. Do you remember, or do you have a copy of what was on the adult survey?
Yes. I was looking at a copy today. And so, as was mentioned earlier, there was a question on the parent survey about K-12 that didn't appear on the online version of the student survey. But that my understanding is that conversation did take place with students in a different format in those in-classroom discussions.
No, I just want you to read off the questions, like whether I want you to specify if they were more like on the scale of this to that, and just based off just parents first. Do you have a copy of that you can pull up?
I don't have it super handy here, but yeah, can I connect with you afterwards? I should be able to look it up after the meeting and go through it with you. But as I say, there's an overestimation of, okay, the parents got the 4 questions. There were 2 or 3 in the online one for the students, but the goal was to cover those same topics in the same way through different approaches. And so I think my memory of the questions in the community or parent survey was that a couple of them were actually repetitive and kind of coming at the same item from 2 different directions. So that gave me confidence that we didn't miss anything through that process.
Was the parent one, were the questions like on a scale, like where you couldn't actually answer, or were they given room to answer just online? Like,
I think everybody had the opportunity to kind of provide additional comments, if that's what you're getting at.
No, well, the parent one, not only was it longer than the child's one, I don't know if you guys just thought we were incompetent of asking the same questions, but basically on the students one, it was more on a scale of this to that. I don't understand why there was a section for if you have more to say it here, when you couldn't have just given us room to answer the questions that weren't on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want the building to, or whatever they were. I didn't answer the survey. I wasn't there at the time. I don't know why. I just was never received an online or a paper survey, even though I was attending school at the time. I don't understand why I didn't. But it's just weird that you guys made a survey that was so different from the parents' one. I get the parents are important, but why is our opinions not as validated as parents answering their opinions?
Yeah, and as I say, the 2 surveys were not that different. They approached it in slightly different ways. I guess, my advice next time will be to make sure that the same number of questions appear on both, but they both dealt with the same concepts. And I can assure you that student input is highly valued through this process. And as the board will look at the data, I can assure you great emphasis will be and weight will be on student voice through that, and that's an ongoing goal of our board, is to always have that opportunity for student voice. So.
It wasn't even an opportunity. That wasn't. Our opportunity was shared in the last box, where it was share your opinion or whatever about any other comments. But the entire survey was based off of just. It wasn't even a question. It was just on a scale, or check off this. Like, it wasn't actually writing. And we go to school, we learn how to write. We were able to form our own opinions. We're able to form our own perspectives on things. But the only opinion that we were allowed to share, like purely off of our own, was in one box that asked any other things to say. And I don't know, I think that's ridiculous, especially that parents were given so much more. And it's, parents' opinions can be different than children's, and especially when, you know, parents weren't there that day, children's, and even, you know, teenagers at the school. I don't understand why we weren't given the same formatting and the same questions and all of that as the parents were. I just don't understand.
Fair enough. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for raising that. I will certainly pass that on.
Are you gonna make a new one?
I am confident that all relevant input really has been collected through the process that we did put in place. We could always revise it and go back through the process, but the amount of work and coordination and analysis and trauma-informed practice that was put in place in meeting with students, in meeting with families of victims, in meeting with staff and members of the community, I just have to tell you, I have confidence in what has been done. There will, you know, inevitably, there'll be people that come up with an idea afterwards. Oh, I could have added this. And you know, you're certainly welcome to contact your trustees and write to your board and give any feedback that you'd like. But I am confident in the process that was put in place there in terms of that Safer Schools Together consultation.
So I didn't actually write the survey, but you said all relevant opinions were taken. So when you say that, are you saying that my opinion, just because I wasn't there at the time, was not relevant? Is that what you're implying?
No, I mean that the opportunity was well presented, and so yeah.
If the opportunity was well presented, I don't understand why I wasn't there to receive a paper copy of it that day. I was in school at the time.
And I mean, I wasn't in school that day either, so, but maybe we can chat afterwards and we'll try and sort out if that was missed in any case.
Yeah, it was. That's why I'm just asking if you're gonna make another one, but I don't know if you actually answered that at all.
So we have these competing demands of consult, and move forward, right? So I'm confident that perfection is not possible, but we did get great and deep and wide feedback from the community and from students and staff, and I'm confident in that, and look forward to making decisions based on that. But our on st59.bc.ca, there are contact forms for your trustees and opportunities like this, and I intend to stay. I think my carpool friends granted me till 9 o'clock, whether we're still in this room or out on the sidewalk or wherever we end up pushed out. But yeah, be happy to chat further. But like I say, I don't want to let the perfect become the enemy of the good in terms of moving forward with a consultation that gave us clear feedback from the people that. And by the way, we are tracking the response rates as well. So we are able to see what response rate from each of the targeted groups, what we were able to get. So thank you for the question.
Paige, I want to thank you first. I know you probably have more questions, and feel free to ask them. You can ask them as your elected officials, or if it's school board stuff, definitely to Chad Anderson, the chair of board. You're saying you were at school and still didn't receive one, is that what you said? Yeah. Thank you. So Chad had just mentioned how they will have kind of a concept of kind of what, this age group, this many people filled it out. Will that number be shared? Not obviously the information they wrote, but if the survey captured on how many students answered, whether that's from this grade to that grade, it was 50, from grade 7 to 12, it was 40. Would that number be shared so that we can, I understand you may not have received one. I know there's some comments earlier from Melanie in regards to the different questions that you brought to. We got 2, parents got 4, and stuff like that. Would you flush that out? I just wonder if it would help you guys as a voice. But if you realize that if they're going to share those numbers, there's 140 students in the secondary school, 138 were captured. I know your voice wasn't heard because you didn't receive it. Feel bad. Is that a plan to share that?
Yeah, I'm not sure what specific details will be shared. Like that summary report that goes out to the public, is coming in the near future. So I won't commit to, how precise those details are, because again, it's a confidentiality element. So obviously, as we go down into the smaller and smaller priority groups, we probably would not release that. But anyway, it's a good question, and I think it lends credibility to the results. So we'll take that back to our teams as that summary gets prepared.
Paige, Mel, get educated, go enjoy life, but come back. Come back when you finish your education journey. We'd love to see you.
And 19-year-olds can run for council and trustee. So anyway, you guys are probably not quite there this fall, but soon.
I actually have the adult one up right now. There's 14 questions in it. The student one had, what grade are you in? 0 to 5, how would you feel going back to that same school location? 0 to 5, how would you like a new school being built at that location? And then feedback. And you say, go talk to trustees, or go talk to this, talk to this. I emailed, there's an email on their Facebook page. I emailed that. I emailed Paul Chisholm. I got back that I've had enough consultation. I went to a PAC meeting. I met with Saver Schools, and I basically got the same answer every time that, well, basically, why are you complaining? You all already got your consultation.
So, and I'm impressed, Melody. Like, you are an activist and a hero, and my compliments to you. The other concern that our board has to be aware of is that there are also students that are not as bold as you and that are not going to go to those lengths to bring their voice to the board. And so we had to protect the rights of those students that are not as brave as you are coming to this event tonight, and make sure that we balance their feedback as well as yours. And so that's also something that we have to be careful about, because the folks that turn up to a public meeting on a Wednesday night, that is a small percentage of the population, and there are a lot of students that are not here tonight that did take part in that process, and we need to be respectful of the feedback that they gave us through that process as well. But thank you so much. I'm really thankful for your ongoing feedback and activism.
Hi. Speaking of people who can't be here tonight, I know there's a lot of people who are interested and still trying to tune in where they can. I've been asked to share a question about the keeping in mind the trauma-informed lens that we're using. There are a lot of students who were not in attendance to begin with. There's a lot of added mental stressors for this, and there are some students who have been able to be in attendance but have not come back after the shooting. I understand from this that mass of emails went out, but not individual supports. And we do know that there is additional risks with social isolation, additional risks with not attending school. Is there going to be, sorry, I'm trying to read this as well as ask the question. Is there going to be more of an effort to reach out to these students who are not able to connect, who aren't able to have their voices heard, and are potentially, isolated at home, and specifically conversations with students who haven't returned and maybe why they haven't returned?
Absolutely, that was an emphasis from the beginning. That has been so important because, and that was part of the urgency in bringing school facilities back into place as quickly as we could and as safely as we could from that trauma-informed lens, respecting the need to be thoughtful with our staff as well. So we moved with all deliberate and careful haste to put school facilities back in place so that students could be back in the classroom together with their friends, with their teachers, and then as quickly as we did get those classrooms open again, as uncomfortable as a single wide trailer is, and the Governor General shared those photos today, and you realize, it's cheap by jowl in there, that's for sure. But as inconvenient as those small trailers are, it allowed students to get back together quickly, those that were willing to and feeling able to come back to the classroom. But from the start, there was an awareness that there would be a number of students that would not feel comfortable to come back right away. And so I know that staff did take great care to identify, students that are back in the classroom and monitoring attendance as we always do, but also those that had not registered with distributed learning and who had not been contacted or heard from in any way. So I'm confident that staff have been in touch with students, and I know that our goal, particularly with that distributed learning option, is to just, and this has been the case with our distributed learning program across the district, probably for a long time, but certainly since COVID, was the goal that we know that people at any point may feel comfortable to come back into the classroom. And so some districts have been accused in the past of saying like, well, you got to pick one lane or the other. Like if you're in DL, you're in DL. If you're in a classroom, you're in a classroom. And if you go on DL, you lose your spot in the classroom. That's not been our approach. It has always been DL is there to make sure that we're taking care of every student. But the minute that they're feeling comfortable to come back into the classroom, that they're totally welcome to that and to slide back into the classroom in a gradual process, however they'd like to do that. And then, making sure that we don't miss anyone that hasn't appeared in either of those categories. And I do know that work has been done, but it's an ongoing task for sure.
Listening to all of these conversations, it seems like the anger and the hurt is all coming from the same place. From the beginning, when Northern Health shut down our ER without telling us, without giving us enough warning, that was a decision made for us, without us. It was a decision made without consultation, and it created so much anger for our community, for our district, for everyone. That is the same thing that's happening now, whether it's the physicians not having the consultation for the ER, whether it's the students not getting the same consultation that the parents are getting. I keep hearing that the school district or Northern Health or whoever is making the decisions feels comfortable that they've done sufficient exploration of the needs, but those who are here on the ground, who have really good ideas, really good solutions to help other people improve their mental health and their physical health, or ideas on what they would like to see going back into school, they are not feeling like they were actually consulted sufficiently. So I understand the balance between consulting and time, but maybe having more open areas for people who want to choose. I mean, again, Wednesday night at this time, we have some very dedicated people who are willing to give that up, who aren't having their voices heard, despite the really good ideas that are coming forward that they have. There must be another way, because the anger seems to all be coming from the same place. We don't want things to be made, decisions to be made for us without our input.
Appreciate that, thank you.
I think you're off the hook for this one, Chad.
Dr. Helm, I'm hanging up the mic. Bye-bye.
No, you're off the hook. I just want to say, Mayor Cook, that joint statement that came out today, I mean, it's a huge step in the right direction. As you say, it's not the final word, but it's a massive step. So, I want you as a council, and I want Northern Health to be able to bask in your glory, in the sunshine today. It's a wonderful thing that's happened. But I echo what you say, that Tumbler Ridge, through yourselves, the MLA, residents, the staff, we've become an example to others, and it's really precious. I've been tremendously impressed. It's been one of the great privileges of my life to assist as a medical advisor. And I will say it's not normally in the Northern Health playbook to reverse course. They've reversed course. And that's due to the relentless pointing out of what was wrong by so many people. It's a team effort in this community, which eventually just became unstoppable, I think. So the last time that Northern Health had a meeting in this room, it follows on what Dr. Pakulak has just said. They did everything wrong. They set the agenda. They made it impossible for people to bring up the ideas that they wanted to bring up. You had to register to be able to attend. The list goes on and on. This is not how you do an open meeting. You do an open meeting by coming in humility and listening to what people want to say, just like you folks have done tonight. That's how you do a meeting. So my suggestion is, in this new era of détente or collaboration with Northern Health, can we not suggest to them that it's time for them to come back to the community in a spirit of humility and listen to what we have to say? And personally, I'm not interested in some of the minions coming to do that, the lower echelons. I want to see Chira Panassa here. I want to see Dr. Ron Chapman here. Those are the people. I want to see the top dogs here. So I don't think that's an impossible ask, but I think that's in this spirit of collaborating with Northern Health. I don't think it's impossible that we ask that. And what we really do need is local leadership. And that's a process that's already begun. And through some of our collaboration, we got some local people, local leadership going, and it's everything I've heard, it's gone incredibly well. But I don't want to see Northern Health make the same mistakes again. And I'm concerned that unless we ask them nicely to do things in a certain way, some of the things I'm seeing, for example, with regard to local leadership, again, you have the top-down thing that Dr. Pakaluk is talking about. And I really would like to see, when we have that meeting with Northern Health, that we explain local leadership is important, because if we have local leadership, I think we're going to do better. And just as a final example, I've made it clear from the beginning in this whole thing, you know, there's Barb, there's Gail, there's myself, there's Patsy. Northern Health could come to us and say, well, how did you guys manage to do this for 20, 30 years? Not a whisper. Never been asked. I've made it known. I'm here to answer questions. Never been asked. So it's not within the Northern Health playbook. But I think those are things that we could legitimately bring to their attention. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Hellman. You know, Council wants to thank you for everything you've supported us with being the medical advisor, helped drive that to home to Northern Health. I don't disagree with you. You talk about an open meeting with Northern Health and obviously the top brass. I'll put the bug in here, and I think it's, you know, something we can ask for. And as we move forward with this process in a good way, I can't see why they wouldn't come back where we don't have to register and, you know, sign in and at least have our voices heard. You know, sometimes you don't always get the answers, but yeah, I have no problem bringing that forward. And, you know, we haven't connected again, but I think you may have an opportunity when you are down south. We're just trying to work out details.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Helm. I think realistically, we get sent the people to tell us no a lot. That's the most frustrating thing, is that we're not dealing with the decision makers. Thankfully, the mayor is. You know, I see he's texting people, you know, as we're talking, to get answers, to get around, you know, the people that have been sent to tell us no. So I appreciate that. We definitely need to have the decision makers in the room, and not just the people telling us everything's okay.
Okay, so I've pretty much stayed silent up until now, somewhat, okay? But I was just sat in my hot tub, listening to this going on, and Chad, I'm not gonna lie, I really don't appreciate the way you're speaking to my students. Like, they just want a voice, that's all they want. We have been through absolute hell. Anyone that wasn't in that building that day does not have a clue what we've gone through. And at this point, I've got nothing more to lose. Like, I've lost my students. I don't know if I love my job anymore. I've lost my firefighting because I can't do that. And then I'm listening to my students not get a voice. I want them to go to school and I want them to be happy. That's all we want. And we just want answers. If we could just make that happen, and if we could just be a little bit nicer to these guys. They come in, they're smart kids. That's all I have to say.
Sarah, I want to thank you for coming in. And I know sometimes I don't want to, definitely not going to speak on behalf of the school district. You know, we council definitely reached out and invited. And I got to be frank, very appreciative the school district did decide to join here at Let's Talk and be willing to take questions on the fly and answer them. You know, I, as a resident of this community, I care about kids too. I don't have young children, but, you know, I do believe we all raise the children that live in this community just a different way. I do believe, I understand the consultation process. You know, I'll share the story. I found out when it came that, you know, yes, I understand and connect with the families that had lost loved ones, and then they were trying to connect with students and the parents that have children in school, which I do not. My admin wasn't making sure that the community was heard as well. Not that we go to that school, and you know, Paige, I appreciate that. We're not there. My support, when I filled mine out, tell me what the youth and children are saying so I can support them. That's what I want to do. It's not because I'm the mayor, it's because I live in this community. So I think when we, and I do think Chad did answer in a way, but so when we were connecting with Chad, I realized that the voice of the whole town was kind of getting missed out. Yes, they put it on their website. I don't have a child. Why would I go to the school district 59 website to fill out a survey? So they extended it. They listened. So I do think they're open. I believe that as the board chair. I believe that as the Ministry of Education. They are listening. And you know, I think sometimes, and I'm not trying to protect Chad at all. He can do that himself. You know, they're writing down the questions. They're trying to answer them. We have other trustees in the room that were introduced at the beginning. I think this is a takeaway. I'm not saying that they should take away and really rethink this and make sure that process was properly flushed out. But I think they're here to listen as well. And, you know, there'll be another chance. I'm not saying a chance for engagement. But the folks are going to get together and say, hey, maybe we didn't do right. I don't know. That'll be up to the board. So the board may have Safer Schools together driving this. But to me, the board should be driving that organization, even though they work for the province of British Columbia. So I think as they listen, and you know, right now we have 2 students in the room, 2 teachers, so make sure I'm not going to miss anybody, couple of educators in the room. I think we'll see more comments come out and be flushed out on social media. Not everybody wants to come to this room and stand up there. You know, when Melanie and Paige do it, you know, it shows how strong they are and the support they have with family. And then yourself, Sarah, coming in here because you're sitting home watching live feed and got frustrated and you're trying to protect your students.
I don't want to be disrespectful or anything, but like I wasn't the only one that noticed it. It came across like, yeah, these kids standing up there asking the questions, you know, and sometimes they're effective and whatever, but it's because they're not getting the answers that they want. That's why they're repeating themselves, and I'm sure it comes across as they're being a pain in the ass.
No.
Right? But no.
They're not.
It wasn't just me. I think there was maybe 20-something people online saying it was coming across as the response to them was very passive aggressive. That is the last thing these kids are need right now.
I'll let Chad answer that part of it, but I do think, you know, again, Chad's a trustee, he's the board chair. You have a local trustee, Roxanne Julick, also a counselor. Introductions were done earlier with 2 trustees that have come out from Dawson Creek as well. I think not only will they listen to this, but Chad mentioned it earlier, reach out to your trustee that lives here. That's why she's here. She's elected. She gets paid. You still have a voice with her. You can also start reaching out, emailing all the other trustees and say how unsatisfied you are. But I believe what we'll see from that is other people that are on social media that didn't want to come down, maybe don't feel comfortable getting up in front of the other people, will also start doing what Chad said. Please feel free to reach out to the trustees, reach out by email, reach out to the district. They may get more information where they may have to rethink of did they do enough? With support, and I'm not trying to protect these guys, but with Safer for Schools together, did we miss a step? With the Ministry of Education, did they miss a step? I think I know that we had one parent come up, when we build, okay, we're talking about building a school, but that hasn't been decided, so I don't want to say it. What's stage 3 look like? How soon is that going to be? How many years? So I don't understand what the rush is for stage 3. Stage 2 looks like it's going to be around for a few years. Even if you go to build a new school, I know the process. So I think it'll be up to the school board with the expertise that they've brought on board to have a relook at that and make sure that they're happy with the numbers and this stuff they've seen. And I don't want to ask for Chad, but again, I hear you guys as community members, not as a student, not as a teacher. You're part of the big family at Tumbler Ridge, and I'll be honest. The job of us elected officials that represent Tumbler Ridge are here to make sure you're advocated for. Whether that's 1 or 2 of you in this room right now and the other 180 outside this room, we're here for you guys, and we'll make sure if voices as a whole haven't been heard, you know I'll be fighting for voices to be heard.
So I don't want to get repetitive either, because nothing worse than getting too repetitive, but I want to be respectful to the voices that are here, and as I said before, I also want to respect and dignify and protect the voices of those that took part in that process that are not willing to come out to this sort of meeting. So I am very confident in the process. Was it perfect? Did everyone take part? We'll be looking at those numbers, but I'm confident in what took place, and I deeply want to protect the voices of those that are too shy to take part in a process like this as well.
Daryl, as you said about reaching out to trustees and stuff. Why should I have to, as a student, reach out to board members? Why shouldn't that already be something that's looked at? Why shouldn't they come communicate with me? I actually emailed Paul Chisholm and I got back complaining because I didn't get as much consultation as others, as adults in the community, and I think students, all students, should give the same level of consultation as anybody else in the community. And I got back, the level of consultation that has taken place with you and the students of TRSS is substantial. That was what I was told in my email. So how, when I email, I just get this roadblock. I just hit a wall. Every time I've had to go up to a PAC meeting, a Safer Schools meeting, and all these, and it just keeps coming up the same thing. And it's a simple request. I just want to have the same consultation as my parents or as anybody in the community.
Thank you for that. And if I offended you, I apologize, because that wasn't my goal there. I'm not trying to protect the school district. Again, they're elected officials. What I'll say to you is you don't have to email me. Your voice here is enough for me. Other people have reached out to me today as well. I'd love to ask questions, but I'm not allowed to, being where I'm at. But my job is to advocate for this community. You're one of our family members. You know I will do that. I promise you that. I've heard you loud and clear. I cannot control, as the mayor of Tullamore Ridge, how other people that you email will respond to you. But there's avenues that I can assist you on with that email, because it's not fair.
Why were we never directed to you, Roxanne? Like, I completely gapped out, but our emails were never directed to you.
That leaves it on, sorry. The things that happen within this is operations. To reach out to me, and I really tried to make sure that people knew that I was in the community to come and talk to me if you had concerns about what was happening, because then I can take that back. A lot of the things that happened are operations. And if you get too many fingers in the pie, I know everybody in this room knows what that looks like. I'm hearing loud and clear from Melody and Paige that you're really feeling like you got left behind in this. And that was not lost. And I know my fellow chair, like my fellow member here, he would never want to disrespect you. He has 6 kiddos of his own. That's not who he is. So I absolutely understand where you're coming from. I will take it back to the trauma-informed lens. That's the other thing too. I do not have that training. My biggest fear is that we continue to traumatize our community. And so I'm very mindful of making sure that the people who ask the questions, the people who put together the questions, are those folks who have that trauma-informed training. I'm not saying you guys don't have the right to feel your feelings, because you absolutely do. You absolutely have the right to ask the questions, and I'm really grateful that you came here and said and asked those questions, because we can take that back and get back to you personally. And so I would say the fault lies with me if I was not able to make sure that
I'm not blaming it on you, I just don't know why when she started emailing others about our school atmosphere, why we didn't get, hey, why don't you get a hold of Roxanne?
Yeah, and I'm not sure. And I think to go back to what Chad talked about as well, perfect's the enemy of the good, and there's going to be missteps. We are very fortunate to not have a playbook about this in Canada.
Yes.
We are so fortunate. So yes, there's going to be missteps. We're going to screw up, and I own that. And so I apologize to anybody in the room who wasn't aware that I was reachable. I was very, again, wanting to make sure that people could reach out to me, and so I tried to get my information out there. Because I think that that has to be everybody else's choice. It's not my choice to come and knock, or it's not my role to come and knock on your door, because maybe you don't want to see me. Maybe what I do, maybe what my role is upsetting for some people in the community. And I get that, and that was the reason that I did not go out and knock on doors and have my face there. So I apologize for that. I do have a Facebook page. My phone number is, I think, everywhere, but you can write it down now. It's 250-257-4148. I'm happy to meet with anybody in person. I'm happy to meet, talk on the phone or whatever that looks like. And Melanie and Paige, we have heard you. We have heard you that, and if you have friends and you have other students that feel the same way, please get them to reach out to me. Because there are people that I can ask the questions to and get back to. So thanks for that, Amanda.
So I've heard you say that you're confident that you've heard people's voices more times than I've heard you say that you're sorry that you haven't, okay? I think it's embarrassing. I'm sorry, but you just need, I'm telling you right now that you're wrong, okay? You are wrong. You have not heard our voices, and I'm not talking for myself, I'm talking for everybody. I haven't talked to one person in this entire town that has said that their voices were heard. And I talk to a lot of people. I talk to literally everybody that I meet. You haven't heard any of us, okay? I'm not talking for myself, and I'm telling you that you're wrong, okay? I don't know if you've heard that, but you're not right with this. You haven't, if you're sitting up here and saying you confidently can say that you've heard our voices, I don't know what's going on with your, like, inside your head right now. I wish I could, but.
Just be, I understand your frustration.
I'm not trying to be rude. I really am not. I know, okay? And just instead of saying and trying to defend your point that you've already made, why can't you just accept you're wrong, okay? There's something so important about accepting you're wrong and telling us and figuring out what to do to move on. I don't want to hear you say that you're confident with our results. I want you to say that, yes, I'll do something better. And I haven't heard that once. I hear excuses, but I don't hear that you're doing anything better.
So Paige, I'm not going to persuade you. I've given up on that, which is fine. But I also am very careful, as I've said, and this is going to get repetitive, but I want to give confidence to those that are watching online that took part in the process, that are worried that 2 students tonight would have a stronger voice than they did taking part in this process. And I want to give them the confidence that we are looking at feedback from all students. And if you did not get a chance, please, give us your information. I mean, we've got your.
It's not about me,
don't throw it into the live stream. But please catch us afterwards, and we'll make we'll make sure that if you did not get an opportunity to participate in that process, that we can do that. But I do want to maintain the confidence of all those many people that have been through a traumatic time, that took part in this process, that their voices will be given equal weight of those that attend a meeting on Wednesday night.
Yeah, 100%, but I'm not talking for myself right now. I'm not talking for me. I'm talking for the people who can't. I don't understand. I'm talking for the people who can't. I'm not talking for myself right now. It's not about what I want. It's not about anything that I want right now. It's about what the people who are most affected need. And I get people's opinions if they want to go back to that school and they don't think this is important, but I cannot understand one single person who says that. Because why are we not on the sides of the people that we need to be on most of? Okay, I don't understand how we can fight back against people we are supposed to be with. I really don't understand. And you say that everyone's voices are heard, but you want balance, and I don't understand how you can have balance when you're limiting our voices. You're saying that I'm up here, and just because I'm one of 2 students up here, that I have to talk lower and not say as much, and I don't get 2 words. I don't get 2 different times to say things because I'm one of 2 students. I'm talking on behalf of many students that can't be here today. I'm not talking for myself, I'm not talking for Melody, I'm talking for everybody. And I'm saying things that, I'm not saying things that the people who came to me, they say, I want to go back to that school because I wasn't there that day. I'm not talking on behalf of them, I'm talking about the people who were. I'm talking for everybody here and everyone who wasn't here that were in that school that day, okay? It's not about my opinions, okay? I'm hearing other people's opinions, I'm putting those above mine. I'm putting those opinions above what I think. And I agree with them, I agree with every single thing that anyone who's told me that they've been in that school, I'll agree 100% with them because I can never understand someone who hasn't been in that school that day and say something differently than those who have, because we should all be on the same sides of the people who need it most. And you're not right now. You're not on our side. You're not on the people's sides who are there. I don't understand how I'm 18 years old and I can put this aside and I can be considerate of these people. But someone like yourself, with such high authority, cannot do that.
So Paige, there's a reason why our consultation process was not designed as a town hall, because it is a difficult environment. And thank you for speaking to us tonight. But in designing that consultation process, as I say, great care was taken to ensure that people felt safe. And again, I compliment you on your boldness and your clarity tonight. And like I say, if you were not able to take part in that process, please catch us afterwards and we'll pass on those details. But this sort of format was not our goal for feedback, because not everybody will be able to participate. Right? So that's why we put people through that trauma-informed, careful process in the presence of particular students, in the presence of people with expertise in trauma and critical incident response. That's why we didn't do it in this sort of format. And, but yeah, please do catch us afterwards. We'll get your details and pass those along to make to see if you're missed in that process, we can give you that opportunity. So, but thank you.
Yeah, you can totally get my information after, but I'm also telling you right now that just your confidence that you've done it all, it's wrong. And I'm telling you that we either, if it's a new survey where you actually get a chance to answer and talk from your own opinions, whether we have another meeting about what Safer Schools, about what we want to do with the school and all of that, I think it needs to be done again. It needs to be done more thoroughly, because I'm talking on behalf of so many people on the sides of the people that were there, and I'm telling you that it's wrong. And you could have a different opinion than me, but I'm in school still. I see these people almost on a daily basis, and I'm just telling you that you're wrong, and I think you need to really, really consider what you've done for us and what you can do more of. Thanks.
Thank you. I will pass along your message for sure.
Hi, Helen Scott. Our biggest asset are our children. Right now, it's soccer season. There's a lot of the younger kids that have lost their playground at the elementary school. And when we talk about mental and physical health, getting outside and enjoying the short season that we do have, like in Tumbler Ridge, there aren't a lot of activities for the kids to do. And so that is up in the air. And we have lost 2 soccer fields right now due to phase 1 and 2. And the kids are feeling that. I'm hoping that, like, we do have a field at the high school, parking facilities at the community center. There's adults and kids talking about, why they can't use that. So I'm just voicing that and wondering if the soccer year is going to be addressed.
Thank you. And I know in terms of remediation of that, the space that the district generously provided to us for phase 1, that is certainly a priority. I'm afraid I don't have timelines on how quickly that can be restored and alternative space, all those details, but it is certainly, we're aware of that issue.
And just one other comment, it was wonderful to see that main road opened up again and security not guarding a street and a boarded up school. The cost, whether it's municipal, provincial, or federal, comes from the taxpayer.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Helen. Helen, just so you're aware too, that the soccer pitch at the secondary is open. It's not closed off. It's usable. I know I've had a conversation with Soccer Association. There is some concern with some of the players that may not want to participate within soccer on that field due to the location. But that field has not been closed off. There is a fence around the secondary school for, on behalf of that was done by the school district to secure the location. You know, they were still moving things out or whatever, and they need to keep it secured for now. That'll be up to them if they ever decide to remove the fence or not. But that soccer pitch is available to be used by anybody.
That's good to know, because a lot of people are thinking that's off bounds.
It is, and I'll be honest, I know I don't even have a time frame for the elementary soccer pitch, but you can imagine the damage that's been done, which we knew was gonna happen anyways. Committed by the province, yes, it's gonna be your provincial tax dollars that will fix that field up better than it was when we did AquaTrans replace it. So I would say the elementary school soccer field would not be available for 2026.
Hi, my name is Chris Kettlapper, and I was just wondering, has any of the process for the bidding on the construction crews, the hazmat removal crews, planning on whether or not, if the consensus does say to demolish the current high school, if like bids have been put out or feelers do, just to see how much it's going to cost, what companies can be brought in on short notice, the timeline on the current investigation and when they're going to remove that. Any estimation on how long that's going to take? And also, if they decide not to use that land again, but also keep the Northern Lights College satellite campus with the high school, if we could get some funding from the Northern Lights College for the rooms that they would use to help offset some of the provincial costs.
Yeah, those are all good questions. Too early at the moment to deal with those. The Ministry of Infrastructure has committed to support us through this process. So in terms of the phase 1 and phase 2, that's all been run by the Ministry of Infrastructure. And again, I have to express thanks for their speed and their help. Our district staff certainly have helped coordinate where to place things and advised on that throughout. So our district staff are very much involved in that. But in terms of the contracting piece, that has all been, for phase 1 and phase 2, that's all been through the Ministry of Infrastructure, and I expect that will continue for the foreseeable future. So, but yeah, you're a little ahead of the game, but yeah, I mean, that's all important questions.
Sorry, me again. This is for Northern Health, and very grateful that our mayor and council and everyone from our community have got to this place with Northern Health that we are moving forward. That's wonderful. It's a lot of hard work. And I'm thinking that now that we've got to this position where you have a good relationship, and talking to Cheryl, who's basically the head of Northern Health, as a resident of Tumbler Ridge, I would like him to know that we as a community do not want to be blindsided ever again. And we need to have a process in place. If there's things as major as closing our ER, there will be a public consultation, and I'm sure you guys have talked about this before, but I just want that to be super loud and clear that we can't be blindsided again with this sort of thing. And one last thing is, if we got a good conversation going, is leadership within our health center. I think it's paramount that the managerial jobs and the leadership roles that are held within the Tumbler Ridge Health Center are held by Tumbler Ridge residents. We don't need to have people from out of town coming, working in our building and managing our Tumbler Ridge staff. So those are the two things that are very close to my heart, and that's what I'd like to say.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Linda, and the comments. I definitely wrote it down, residents don't ever want to be blindsided. I gotta be straightforward. I'm still young, I think. My comments are, we'll have CDR ever closer to Tom Ridge ever. I mean, I guess government could change and CEO could change and stuff like that. But I watched the drive in this community. I think if they ever thought that process through again, I don't think you'd ever see it. I take it very clear from yourself and Dr. Helm in regards to, the offer to see if Chiro and Dr. Chapman, maybe some ministry staff would come up and engage the community in an open, transparent way. I think that's the right to have that. Let's get back to where we were and have that conversation. And we were so respectful at the open house that we did on the Sunday. I thought it was well done by the community of Tumbler Ridge, the residents. And I think that's an opportunity. I mean, I can't tell you they will. They took it from a different side. They didn't think it went well. They thought it was hard on their staff. I mean, I thought the Tumbler Ridge residents were amazing. Right? I mean, nobody rushed the table. When you think about losing your after hours ER, nobody rushed the table. I mean, do that in Prince George or Vancouver, I bet you people rush the table, right? So I'll bring it to them. I'll also bring it to the ministry. Tumbler Ridge Council has worked very, very hard with their staff to build those connections with all ministries, not just the Ministry of Health. We're very respectful and dialogue very well when we're down there. And be honest, the staff below the ministers, the ones that do all the work, they just make the minister look good. Just like here, staff does a lot of work to make the elected officials look really good up here. That's the truth. I can't say the same thing for the school district 59 board, but I'm going to tell you that's how it is there too. We're elected officials. We don't do the work. We rely on the staff, and they make us look good. Same with ministry. I like connecting with staff because those are the ones working. So I'll definitely connect with Chiro in regards to the two comments, the one from yourself, Lyndon, and the one from Dr. Helm. Let's invite them back up. I wouldn't say the engagement will happen right away, but again, I think it's important to have that open dialogue and not a survey.
Are we leaving? Just a thought, maybe there seems to be a lot of questions from students, teachers, and parents. So what's the thought about having a Q&A with perhaps maybe just the students or the students and parents, just to see, so that these people actually get some clarity on what's going on or what's going to happen? And maybe it seems like maybe a lot of the information was missed, I'm not sure, because obviously you had experts that did these questionnaires, but mistakes happen, and I don't know, who knows, because I wasn't part of it, so, but there's got to be some follow-up, because obviously there's still a lot of questions, and somehow they need to be answered, so I don't know what your thoughts are about something like that. So maybe, well.
Thank you. And as I mentioned, part of that process was checking the lists of, obviously we know who our students are in the school, and we know who the families are, and so verifying that is a very important part of the process. So, but like I said, if there's someone that feels like they haven't had an opportunity, we're happy to take that back and double check those lists for sure.
Okay, the other thing is, what's the thought process? This is now the $870,000 for the geotechnical study on the potential new fire hall, and including electrical and all that. Now, I'm not sure, are we putting the cart before the horse, or how this exactly works? Because you want to build a new fire hall, depending on what that cost is. So you're spending almost $1 million to do a study to see if it would be feasible to build somewhere else. That seems to be a lot of money to spend on something that, is there a potential to build a new fire hall, or is there not? I'm just wondering, maybe we should look at that before we start spending a bunch of money.
Yeah, I can't speak on behalf of council. I'll speak on behalf of myself. I agree. I said it in the meeting the other night, cart before the horse. I know staff have select a location that I think is the right location. We've also been told by staff that's very fluid. So I mentioned Pioneer, Loop, and Mackenzie. That's not the guaranteed spot, so we're not gonna go start doing geotechnical tomorrow. There is some workload that's gonna wait. We're gonna wait and see what the grant. We're probably gonna wait for this, for some of the school district 59 stuff to flush out. You know, until we know what the process moving forward is, whether that's, again, a renovation or a new build, there's gonna be land needed for a new build if that's the direction of that consultation. So again, that has not been shared with us. I don't believe, I think they're still gathering it, trying to get the summary together before it even goes to the board. I can't speak on that. So we gotta look at that too. We gotta have that in the back of our minds. But it was mentioned at the open budget council meeting that we're not going straight away forward with it. I'll be honest, debated at council. We did have Fire Hall come forward. It was about $15 million, was not supported by majority. They removed, so that was a 4-bay drive-through fire hall. They had a deck up top, an outside deck, so they could be out for fresh air. My only thing I ever said, and I said in an open meeting, that we're missing the time that we're going to full time. It's not within my report, because I was concerned about that. So staff did go back. They came back with another selection, removing 1 bay, so back to 3 bays now, and that was 12.9 million, I think. Again, majority of council, maybe it was 11.9. Majority of council did not support that. We asked for clear direction. We were told that we put some money in a budget that we would get other options brought back to us. That has not happened. I have recommunicated that again with staff. Like, I understand they answered the question in the budget. I asked the question right there in the open budget meeting. Is there waiting until if they get the grant and all? But I'm sorry, we haven't decided on what we want for a fire hall. It's not going to just be us. It's going to be the residents. Because that's who's going to have to vote on borrowing money. But yes, do we need a new fire hall? Possibly. If previous council remembers, we gave clear direction to staff 8 years ago, I'm not sure, maybe 7 years ago, that what was the cost to renovate the building we have today for a fire hall compared to building a new one? We've never received that information. Be straightforward. Because when they reached out to the contractor, they were very clear with staff. We can go down that road, but it's a waste of your money. And this is why. So that's why that direction got switched. Because staff took the expertise by saying, you're going to waste a bunch of money to say that renovate that hall is going to be way more expensive than building a new one. Because once you start to renovate it, you have to bring it up to BC code. It's a fire hall, you have to bring it up to the NFPA standards. So there's a lot of things in that. So I think that's the direction staff went, which to me makes sense when you think about it. But now we need to find out, what are we looking for? Because again, in the budget, if you look, we're budgeting 11.9 million for a fire hall. That's what's in our 2026 to 2030 budget. Well, we would be borrowing the money, so it'll be the residents that decide if we go forward. And again, staff was very clear in that budget meeting about looking at doing a committee with some residents, some staff, possibly some elected officials. So it's not a done deal, Bernie. Like my understanding from staff, we're not going to spend this money right away. That's my understanding. There's some stuff that has to flush out.
Thanks for the comments, Bernie. I was in favor of the geotechnical work, so I think I should justify my rationale. We're going for grants, and one of the things we need to do to get these grants, we need to provide a large amount of evidence that we are ready to receive any money. Other grants that need matching funds. So, maybe I'm optimistic, but realistically, this will need to get done at some point anyways. If we want to do a new building, we want to do a retrofit. But I think this builds our case to get those large grants. We're not talking a couple $100,000. We're going after multi-million dollar grants. Hopefully this is investment towards that. Again, being optimistic. Sorry. Thanks.
That gentleman back there just asked you if you would be open to a Q&A with students and parents. I feel like your answer wasn't very clear. So yes or no, do you think SD59 would be open to a Q&A with students and parents?
So, as I said, if you don't feel confident in the process that we're going through at this stage of the process, there will be more opportunities for feedback in future stages of the process, so that there will certainly be more consultation that takes place. As I said, we're happy to take part here tonight, but town hall is not the most psychologically safe, traumatically informed method of communicating with students and families around a tragedy such as this. So it's not going to be a priority for us as a method of communicating. The communication methods that were chosen were in person in the classrooms with small groups, in person with families and staff, and then the online component as well. So I'm not going to commit to a town hall because it's just not the ideal format for everybody to actually take part, because not everybody will feel as safe as you do, and I'm glad you do and compliment you on that, Melody, but not everybody is going to be able to take part in that in an equal way, so we're always careful about that.
You're saying you're confident again. So basically you're saying you're confident that SD 59 members are okay with students being unconfident in the amount of consultation that they've received. And you're saying about these conversations, well, where are they? I haven't seen a single conversation with students, except for that one consultation, which was smaller than anyone else's in the community's consultation.
Yeah, I'm not persuading you. I'm not having great success tonight on this, Melody. So, but the process was designed so that we had fairness for all students and families, and so that we could take their feedback in a safe way, and it's not going to be town halls in the future. In that regard.
We're not asking it to be town hall, we're asking it to be you, the school district. That's what we want.
I'm as I say, we're still going strong here, but I will be here after at least till 9, so I'm happy to have.
Okay, the other question is we have counselors in right now with Safer Schools. This is gonna end in September, I'm assuming? Or are you guys gonna put into your new budget that we have permanent counselors in our school? Always. Because our counselor offices are full right now, and it's not gonna change in September. And I have been at the school for years, and we have had off and on counselors who have 4 other jobs to do. That's not what we need right now. We need actual counselors who are trauma informed that we have right now. I love them, but I know they don't live here. They live down south. So that's a question I have. Are we gonna have counselors in our school? Or are we gonna be walking our kids to the health center to get counseling?
So I'm not gonna be able to give you like specific position counts and time, dates, start and end, but what I can tell you is that, of course, we always have counseling services available to students across the district. So at a basic level, there are counselors on staff at our district that
come to my school once or twice a month.
So I'm giving you the baseline before this and outside of this situation. The baseline is that we have.
I still only see my counselor.
That's right. So
That I know is at our school, and I'm not gonna use his name. He's only showing up once or twice a week. Once a week, maybe.
So these, the sports that are in place right now, I can let you know, and I don't have specifics on timelines, but what the province has given us is both the short-term, medium-term, and long-term funding commitments that are significant in terms of the response to this tragedy. So I do not anticipate those supports going away anytime soon. I don't have specifics because I don't think the reason why I don't have specifics about those services going away is because they're not going away right now.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, but the and I know the mayor's talked about this as well. Like, this is a long-term recovery, and so the province, Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Finance are certainly on board for. Like I say, we have commitments around short, medium, and long-term supports in the district, and obviously at this stage for us, many of those are estimates, but they've been very helpful and have not tried to roll anything back or cut anything back for us. So
Thank you.
I feel safe in that regard.
So I'll mention one comment there. So right now you have a team that comes. Before the tragedy, it was 1 day a week, and it was shared position. What I can tell you, there's been an announcement. We are getting 1 full-time position for the school here.
Okay.
It's been already announced.
Okay.
And I'll make another guarantee. I don't want to be in the school district flame. If our students and youth and our community family members need counseling and not at the health center, TR Strong Youth and Children's Center, I'll guarantee it, because that's what government told us.
Okay.
I'll guarantee it.
Okay.
You're saying, meet with me after this meeting. That's not what I want. I want you to come to my school and give all the students at my school the equal opportunity to share their voice. The equal opportunity that everyone else in this community has. In fact, we should get more of an opportunity to share our voice than anyone else in the community.
And I can confirm that the board places immense weight on what students have provided. Yes, it was a slightly different format because we didn't have classroom gatherings with members of the community. So they had a little different survey to do online. Once they were confirmed as being legitimate members of the community, that should take part in that process. What students got, in real ways was superior to what those that filled out the online survey got, because great care was taken to ensure that we had a trauma-informed process, that they were supports in place when those conversations took place, because they were, I'm not revealing anything shocking here, those were difficult conversations for students. And so we wanted to have those take place in the presence of Safer Schools Together staff who are experts in dealing with these sort of situations. So I believe that the process that students were given, and I mean, there's always room for more feedback through processes like this than email, phone, chit chat after this, and to make sure that no one was missed in the process. But yeah, I don't have any doubt that we gave students a very good process to take part in.
What conversations?
Sort of saying it.
What conversations?
Well, in that consultation that took place in the
It
classroom.
wasn't a consultation, it was a forum. It wasn't a conversation.
Well, I have heard details about that process. I'm not going to persuade you, Melody. That's okay. I'm okay with that. Because we don't operate on unanimity. We do have to, like I say, respect those that are not here tonight that were there in those classroom consultations. And I will continue to protect those voices too.
Melanie, one thing I'll say to you again, totally appreciate Chad Anderson as the board chair willing to come up here. You actually have 4 trustees in this room right now, not just one person. You have 4. I'm hoping they're listening loud and clear. You may be only 2 people. I heard 2 students, or people. I listened to Paige. I'm not here to talk about myself. I'm here to talk about the voices of the people that told me. I think they're listening to you guys. To be honest, and I don't want to throw it, it'd be no different if you're asking me some of those questions. What are you guys going to do this as council? I probably can't commit until we can get the information from staff. Hey, this is what we heard. Here's all the questions. Did we do a full job? I'm not saying we're changing the mind of the board, but I think it gives the board, just like us, I'm going to go back to some of the questions I've all wrote down, make sure I wasn't wrong here tonight. I think the same thing happens, and that's why we really appreciate Chad. It may not change their minds, but again, there's 4 trustees in this room out of 7. You have majority vote right here in this room. So I think it gives them a chance to make sure that they have done it. They've used an agency that works for the provincial government that has lost expertise. They'll probably re-engage with them with some of the comments and some of the questions, because I know I will. We still get to connect with them as well in a different way, because they don't work for us as elected officials. They work for, right now they're working for the school district 59 through the province. But we need to make sure, and I get it, we have 2 students that came to this Let's Talk tonight to have their voices heard. There is other students I haven't talked to. Don't take me wrong, I'm getting lots of texts as this meeting's going on, because it's being talked about. So I don't think you were the only 2 missed. I'm going to be straightforward. I do not think you were the only 2 missed in regards to whatever that looked like. Us as adults had a different one. But I listened to Chad. There was maybe some kind of communication at school level, conversation. Maybe you didn't realize that conversation was actually pulling some information from you guys. Maybe not. That's why it wasn't taught that way. I'm trying to protect school. I'm just trying to make sure that, one, not only are your voices heard, that your 2 voices are being heard in the room. I know you're speaking for other people in the community. I think these people take it away, they'll have a dialogue, they'll check in to make sure they haven't missed a step. I really believe that. Because I know as an elected official, they're all elected officials too. And how they get their trustees seated by people voting for them, just like myself as a mayor and council here. So when we hear information from residents, not happy with Northern Health, making sure that we're not blindsided again, having a meeting with Dr. Chapman and Shiro, the healing space, stuff like that, the doctors not being included in maybe some of the conversation, which I think may happen at a later time. I've wrote all that down to make sure I can circle back, and I've seen lots of writing on this side as well. But they have to get back and talk about it. It might be hard to make, it's like myself, I can't make a decision on a lot of this stuff right now. I have to circle back to it, to make sure that, one, we did do the proper job within this report that we did, staff did. Be honest, did I pre-read it before I got here? No, I read it as I went, because I didn't have time today. So I think it's the same side for the school district 59. I'll be honest, when this first happened, we didn't have a good relationship in communication, myself and Chad, maybe not the board, myself and Chad. We've gotten over that. We dialogue, we talk through it, figure out, make sure I'm in my lane and he stays in his lane. He does a better job than I do. 100%, because I love my community. Guarantee if this is in Dawson Creek, and that's where Chad's family is. There's a difference. I see you guys every day. You're part of the big family. I want to make sure you care for it. This whole council does. Not just me. When I see me, I'm talking on behalf of this council, because that's the right of the mayor. I won't answer a question for them, but this whole council up here does nothing but support our community. All the adults, all the children, all the youth, we care. And I'll be honest, that's why we advocate so hard when this happened, not only with the school district 59, with the board chair, Ministry of Education, the premier, the PM, like everybody, because we care. And I'll be honest with you, I know you're not just speaking for yourself, you're speaking for other people. I can promise you, this council, with all the residents of this community, has changed Northern Health's mind. Do you not think with the whole community behind you, as well as the elected officials in this room, can change the mind of the school district that maybe we missed a step? If they have, right? We also got to think if they have. I know Paige mentioned that she was at school but she didn't get it. Maybe a slip. Maybe she was. First time I was at your school at the Apco Traders. I understand how it works if you have to use the facilities. Maybe you're out of the room at the time and it was all done by the time you got back. Don't know. But I think it gives them time to go back and have a discussion as a board. That's what I believe will happen. And I appreciate your frustration. And please, like Chad said, standing at Trustee Julik here, you got two trustees up front. I apologize, can't remember the names. They're all sticking around till 9 o'clock. Feel free to talk one-on-one. I like it more when they have to answer you guys up here, because then we all get to hear it. So I can go around here and talk to all one of you about whatever's in this report. Chris's opinion on the fire hall, my opinion on the fire hall. Ron will have a different opinion. But when we're up here having to answer it, we better have it together, because you're gonna hold me accountable, right? That's your right to hold me accountable. And I say the same thing about your trustee. Not so much Chad as a trustee, because he's out. Rule, right? Rule. But he's the chair, right? So, but that's why Roxanne's here too. I know some things are operational, keep your fingers out of it. But I do. I believe that's why, not only is Chad and Roxanne here, she has to be here anyway, she's the council too, but two other individuals came to the community to hear, obviously support the other trustees and the board chair. But I think they're hearing you loud and clear, and I'm not trying to protect Chad, but I think it's hard to, I agree with you, we're gonna mark that down, we're gonna redo it. I think they need to engage, he's only one vote. He needs to talk to his other trustees and the organization to make sure, like I said, they might have done a great job, we don't agree that it was done right. Sometimes that does happen.
And I just want to, when we talk about, yes, I'm from Dawson, I confess.
Rural.
But rural. So if that buys me any gold stars, I don't know. But I would emphasize that our trustees and there'll be a new board, depending on how many come back in the fall. We always consider it a new board after the election. And a big part of our trustee orientation and training at the start is a real emphasis on the fact that, yes, we are elected from wards. So we have rural Dawson Creek, urban Dawson Creek, Tumbler Ridge, and Chetwynd. But our board is very serious about the fact that when we are elected to that board, we serve all students in Peace River South. So we're not there fighting for our little region, my little school. Like I've been assigned to two two schools that my kids do not attend as the PAC liaison, but I don't go to those board meetings and bang the table for Devereaux's playground, even though they've got a great playground. It's McLeod now that is putting a playground. So, but when we're at that board table, I mean, I hope Roxanne will agree with me. She'll tell you the truth. Our emphasis really is on serving the whole district, and so I know that all of our trustees take that seriously, and all trustees that were available and in the district that week attended Thursday and Friday that week, and their hearts are here. They weren't all able to attend tonight, but our focus is on doing what's right for all students across the district, and that will certainly include Stumble Ridge.
Quick question. I'm hearing a lot of, support for the students and parents, which is extremely important. But what about our teachers? They're a part of our community too. And what sort of supports is School District 59 giving our teachers?
Yeah, thank you for letting me address that. So there, from the start, has been great care taken to connect with teachers from those first few days. And so I was in Tumble Ridge Elementary Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Some were comfortable coming into the school that week, some were not. But our district staff were connecting with them. Our counselors, yes, yeah. So our district staff and our counseling supports were connecting with all of our staff, and there were facilities put in place on behalf of the in our role as the employer. There were counseling supports put in place that were not visible in the community.
Well, I noticed that the Governor General was here. That was very gracious of her to come. But the high school teachers that were in the school at the time weren't the teachers that experienced that tragedy. Were they able to have a voice at some point?
Did you mean it was the Governor General visit?
Yeah, during that visit.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of details on that, except that I know that everybody's at a kind of a different place about whether they were comfortable joining in some of these various dignitary visits. Obviously, we had the Premier and the Prime Minister in the first couple of days, and now the Governor General is back.
Have you met with them?
Our staff, and more importantly, the trauma counselors were the most important ones to meet with staff. I'm not the best person to speak to a staff member that's been through a traumatic situation.
I just feel it's very important that we support.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, and that has been a focus, and like we were advised from the start that it is very difficult for people to come through this and remain in a teaching career after you've been through a traumatic situation like that. And so that has been really the focus, and some people were anxious to get kids back in school, particularly, potentially if they, everybody deals with these things differently, but some were anxious to get back into a classroom. Others couldn't imagine that for weeks and months. And so in those first few weeks, we had to connect with staff. And when I say we, district administration, Safer Schools Together, connecting with staff to see who was going to be available to be in classrooms, and then bring in additional staff support so that we made sure that they could come back. Students and staff were invited to come back on a gradual basis as they felt comfortable. So.
Okay, I think this is an opportunity, and if you have other questions, I believe all council's going to hang out. Chad, the board chair for School District 59, has already said that he's going to hang out till 9 o'clock. Feel free, we'll gather around and walk around. Feel free to come up to either the trustees, and like I said, there's two more, and Chad will introduce them, but same as council, feel free to come up and talk to us.